So we got just enough time to get into the chest portion of our day. My legs are still roasted from the other day. We got all the way up to 295 on the last set. I know my battery cut out on me before I could finish up. What's up, Phil? But I'm gonna do a chest workout today, so I gotta be really careful about how I press, because I tore the labrum here and sprained the teres, which is right under the infraspinatus, and then the supraspinatus comes up here, and those are your rotator cuff muscles. So typically if we have pain in the shoulder, a lot of times what happens is we shrug when we press, and a lot of that puts pressure on the shoulder. We internally rotate this way when we press, and that sets you up for shoulder impingement. So this is actually one of the tests for shoulder impingement. So if we're doing stuff in there and it's a test for shoulder impingement, pain there, then you probably have shoulder impingement, which we can work on fixing. But we gotta work on this external rotation, right? And then also engaging the lats, so pulling the shoulders down, which is gonna look more like elbows in. I had injured my shoulder actually throwing the right cross. So when we grab the bar, we want to make sure that we're grabbing the bar and we're breaking the bar. Think about like a strongman feat from the old days, or in a circus where the guy's just bending the bar down this way, and this is what's gonna happen. All right, so your wrist is gonna stay relatively straight, and then your elbows are gonna go from facing out to facing down. And then when we pull the bar down, we're gonna actually, just like a row, we're gonna try and pull the elbows as far back behind us as we can, keeping the shoulder blades together and your back flat. Core engaged, so your back's relatively flat, your chest is up, but we're not really super arching either, because that can be just as damaging as rounding your back in a squat. So, but grab the bar. So when we turn out like this too, it actually opens up the wrist, so then it minimizes compression in the wrist. Some of us have pain in the wrist, so we wear these compression bands and that kind of thing, and that helps. But turning and engaging the rotator cuff muscles and the lats actually puts a stretch on this section of the wrist here and allows it to open up, so the decompression is less. But we're gonna apply the same principles. So we're gonna start off light. We're gonna get a shit ton of volume behind the workout, because that's just one of the things. A lot of people say, I'm doing bench press and it just wrecks my shoulders and it doesn't really give me the pump that I'm looking for. And most of the time it's just because you're not getting enough volume in behind the workout. And when you lift heavy all the time, it wrecks your joints, and you get tired before you can actually stimulate the muscle. So take your time with the warm up and get lots of volume behind it. So make sure that you're positioned correctly on the bench, because if we're crooked and we try to bring our elbows back, you don't want one side hitting the bench and the other side having free range of motion. So I'm doing 5 reps right now, but my warm-up right before I turned on the camera was like 30 reps just on the bar, just getting the range of motion right. We want to bring down the bar to the chest, pull back and really get a stretch in the chest as well as a real flat back. Squeeze down in the lats and in the elbows, and then pushing up forcefully or fast. So that intentional squeeze, it really primes the joint and makes it tight already, so that when you do push hard and or fast, it's not a sudden onset of that load onto the muscle. So it's a bit of a primer. So if we actually do that consciously, just kind of squeeze and flex everything before we hit it hard, that's a protective measure against injury there. So again, I'm just going to take a really slow warm up and just go like 5 pounds only. So 5 pounds, that's 2.5 pounds on each side. It's not a lot of weight. But when you put a lot of volume behind it, then it adds up. Again, we're gonna make sure that my arms have the proper range of motion before I set myself on the bar. To warm up a little bit more, so I just went for 10. So when I play with the volume and the ranges during the warm up, that's okay. But once you get into some of the more areas of already having pump or burn in the muscle or difficulty in pressing it out, then we want to make sure that we're adhering to the programming. But your warm up is your warm up. It's meant for you to just play with the range of motion and the technique and the repeatability of your performance. So again, this would be a phase 1 assessment phase for Tucker method and or transitional implementation that we want to use to switch from maximal strength training into hypertrophic training. And today we got the spotter arms already set up, so I don't have to mess with it later. And if you have shoulder pain or previous shoulder injury, pushing the limits beyond self-control is a big mistake. You gotta maintain shoulder stability. Is the second you start to drop out of a good form, then it's just gonna fall apart. And maybe literally. So, train the joints to be strong and stable. And even if you have loose ligaments from a previous sprain or injury, the joint will be more compact, more contracted, more solid, more stable. But stretch and maintain flexibility in a functional range of motion. Appropriate, not hypermobile. That's when we become unstable and get injured. So here we're doing a few things. So I'm grabbing that bar and I'm bending it down, which is rotating my elbows down. I'm squeezing my lats to pull my shoulder blades down into my back pocket. I'm pushing into the ground with my toes and squeezing my butt, and also squeezing my abs and bracing my core. So this is how we stabilize your body while we press this load. So we just keep going. Keep going, keep going. And by the time you're thoroughly worked, you will have gotten a very decent pump, especially if we're intentionally engaging the muscle and not just throwing weight around. Control the range of motion. And it's a little cooler today, so I could keep the door closed. Not so much background noise. But I should be getting some mics in today, so then the recordings will be much more clear. Okay, so if we don't intentionally rotate down this way and pull the shoulder down, we're gonna have shoulder involvement, we're gonna have shoulder pain. So I have to make sure that that happens. Mentally control it, keep it tight. Because your habit is to roll this way. When things get tough, we do this. So when stuff gets tough to push, we want to make sure that we're squeezing all that more, not allowing ourselves to deviate into a compensation, which is why our movement patterns are messed up anyway. And if your back hurts, squeeze your tummy. Squeeze, brace. Learn how to brace your core. Almost all back pain that I know of is fixed when you know how to brace your core. Or if you're not tilting your pelvis. Right? Like, learn how to control your pelvis. Learn how to control your thoracic extension and your shoulder girdle. Two of the most complicated areas to the body. Ankles, knees are fairly uncomplicated, they hinge. Ankles are fairly complex. Shoulders, very complex. So we gotta take care of it because all of everything depends on central nervous system health. So brain and spinal cord is what takes care of everything out into the periphery. That's probably my legs coming to the door. Amazon. Lots of control. Lots of slow movement. Control. To have intentional external rotation this way, supination this way, and then scapular depression. Okay? So these are all things that have to happen and stay tight, and then when we row, or when we come into the eccentric stretching of the chest, it doesn't necessarily have to be this direction. We're not coming up into our shoulder, because then we're going to get an impingement here. We're stretching it this way. Push the chest open with thoracic extension and pull your elbow back as far as you can. Alright, so it's, remember, like in school, they used to stretch you like this, and then your friend would pull your arms back, and right, so it's this kind of a stretch. And you're stretching all this, and your pecs run down into your ribs, and all the way up into your collarbone, and all the way over to your sternum, and then all the way over into your shoulder. So pulling all this back lengthens this point to this point, right? So this does too, but we're also putting our shoulder in a greater range of potential injury. So anything between like your armpit, your collarbone, and like your sternum is usually a good range for bench press. Right, so some people like to be up here a little bit more. It's fine as long as you're not having shoulder injury, but work on expanding the chest, stretching the chest muscles, and then pulling back in. Right? Versus this way where we're stretching this way. Okay? Either way, we're looking for a deep stretch. Deep stretch as best you can, and then isometrically squeezing and stabilizing the joint, and then a very controlled acceleration to a very controlled stop. Right, we get there, but it's an acceleration, not a jolt, and then a controlled stop at an intended end range. So we're not hyperextending anything. We're not snapping the knees or the elbows. Everything is started and stopped with control the entire way. And if you don't have a long time to be able to work out, just make bigger increases when you do your jumps in the beginning, and then slow it down as you get into the heavier weights like I described before. Or you can also do higher rep ranges and then drop down into like 5-6 range once it starts getting to a point of struggle. So we want to make sure that we're really squeezing the abdomen, the abs, right? And not overarching into the back because that can create some impingement in the spinal nerves in the lumbar. So if you have pain down in here during the bench or squat or anything, it may be because you're actually overarching in your back. So squeeze your stomach real hard, brace, and it pulls you back, it pulls the pelvis back down into this tuck position. And we're not really tucking down like this, but if you just squeeze it down, then it's gonna flatten out if you have an anterior tilt. Alright, so here we go. On to the bigger plates and the bigger weights. And everybody starts somewhere. The only person you should be competing with is yourself yesterday. The previous version of you. That's the only competition. Beat who you were yesterday. I keep forgetting to put my phone on here. Alright, so now we're going to skip out on these. And start increasing by 5s. Actually, by 10. So 5 on each side versus the 2.5 for the slow warm-up. Now we're going to start getting up to a good work weight pretty rapidly. Let me just snooze this. Get the chocolate. Hey Lisa, thanks for joining. We're just having a real casual workout. If you have questions, let me know. Otherwise, volume, control, neuromuscular approach to physical development. Your body doesn't care how much weight is on the bar. Your body cares about how difficult it is to perform an action. So whether you're pre-exhausted or lifting heavy or high volume, your body cares that it's hard. It doesn't care how much weight it is. It cares that it's hard today. So we make it hard. We make it hard every day. And if it gets too much into the joints, then we back off and give more volume at a weight that we can control and minimize any kind of injury or irritation to the joint. It's fairly simple. But a lot of people do not realize that it is something that we are doing to ourselves that is causing this pain of inflammation and injury, whether it's in your feet or your knees, your hips, your wrists, your fingers, your jaw. A lot of times it's just us putting ourselves in a position where we are compromised. And we should not ever compromise ourselves. Always push to the limit of what you can control and repeat. We increase the volume before we increase the load. Because we don't want to crush the joints. We want to stimulate muscle with minimal joint irritation. That's the way to develop a good musculature. If we're constantly smashing our joints, then the muscles and tendons and connective tissue are just going to be shot to hell. So today I'm doing the phase 1, which is 5, right? If I'm in a really rehab state, I'd probably do like phase 9, which is more of the same kind of progression, but with 15 reps, and really work on repetition and control with lighter weight as you progress. And then we add in the variant A group variation, wherein at the end of that progression, we add in, just like we did with the squats, we add in single rep heavies and continue the weight progression. So while fatigued, we still have some confidence to complete the rep with, it's just 1 rep, right? To do it once. And it's not a big weight increase, so we continue to work into a heavy struggle, even with the pre-fatigued muscles. So you're learning that repetition and control and endurance and hypertrophic values in addition to work hard and struggle for maximal strength. And I'm gonna keep drinking this and my water in here because I'm actually getting hungry. But we have evidence to suggest, and it's the research is out there, that heavy bouts of exercise will actually kill hunger. So drink lots of water during your workout sessions. If you're hot, you're sweaty, you're breathing heavy, because obviously I'm not even like really breathing heavy yet. So we would consider this still in the warm-up phase. Drink water, man. Like, get it in. I drink probably a half a gallon of water just during my workout. So, if you're not getting the water in your body, then you're not going to lose weight. You're not going to gain weight. Whatever your goal is, it's probably not going to happen. Because nothing's moving, right? So drink that water and move. And your lymphatic system requires for you to move. Your circulatory system pumps. So if you move, it pumps harder. But your lymphatic system requires you to move. And that vibration from your body, movement, moves your lymph fluids. There's no pumping system. So move, move, move. Do inversions. Keep this up as long as you can into your aging. And you will have far less problems with any kind of circulatory issues or edema or anything heart related. Not the grip, I just didn't have the weight on this side. Seeing if you're not a dummy, you know that you didn't add the weight on. But if you're paying attention to your body, you can feel that something's off. In the same relationship as where the your grip might be more to one side or the other. It's gonna feel off balance. So, yeah, look, I'm a dummy today. So remember, pull this all back and get yourself in the middle of the bench. Everything flat. And I like to set the J-hooks a little bit down just in case if I get in trouble. And then if I really get in trouble, we got the spotter arms. And they're really low so that I can get the biggest stretch. But they're above where my throat would be, right? So I can compress my chest. But if I roll it up towards my throat, I know that this bar is going to catch it. And in that situation, I can just slide out and not have any real serious injury to myself. Okay, so we're going to make sure that we're pulling the shoulders down with the lats as well, not just rotating, because then I can still get into a point where we're externally rotated and lifting the shoulder, and that can cause some strain up in the shoulder as well. So make sure that we're pulling down, pull the shoulders down away from your ears. So, and just for reference, like I was doing sets with this weight that we're about to get onto, when I was just starting out in high school, 13 years old. So you can definitely get fit and add some bulk with not super heavy weight. We can stay relatively fit and add protocols for power. To continue to stimulate the muscle beyond what general lifting can do, and still with the same weight, right? So without having to increase weight, we can still make it more difficult. There's always a way to make it harder. Well, I can also say in high school we were just throwing away and trying to just bang out repetitions as much as we could without any attention to the level of control that we exert here in the gym. So, training, I learned over the years the big difference between training and performance and exercise and practice, right? Like, there's different aspects to all of those kinds of thoughts, right? So, throwing weight around doesn't train you very well. It's a good performance indicator of how strong you are, but it doesn't really stimulate the muscle as much as it is when we slow things down and train the muscle. So again, we're just gonna keep going up your weight. And keeping everything controlled and slow. And if we do experience some pain, maybe we'll do some drop sets. But you gotta get in the amount of volume that you need to get the pumping. You want to feel the burn, you want to feel the pump, stretch, and a difficulty generally in being able to push the load. So all of those factors come about what we would refer to as intensity, right? So you can bring in intensity with your attitude and your approach and your aggressiveness towards getting after it. But there should be an intensity threshold in all of these factors that is a requirement for your workout. So if all you did was sweat, your heart rate got up, you breathed a little heavy, but you didn't get a pump in the muscle and you didn't feel stretched and you didn't feel like it was hard, then you didn't train, you did cardio, right? So like there's different things on those parameters, but these are all things you learn in our method. My method. I've worked on this my whole life, using the best from everybody else's methods that I've exposed myself to. Filled in the blanks and continually updating practices based on new research. So you can track that core down, and then pulling the weight off of the J hooks is an ab workout. You feel that stretch. So now with the level of control that we exert with the exercises that we do, I'm now starting to kind of feel a pump, a little bit of a stretch in the tissue, right? And I'm breathing a little heavy because those last couple were not super difficult, but hard to control within the range of motion that my injuries allow for. So, my heart's pounding a little bit, right? So hard to breathe, hard to talk rather, not breathe, but hard to talk. But I need to stay focused mentally right at this point, because when we get fatigued is when we start to fall back into compensations, and that's where our injuries happen, or are reinforced. A bad movement pattern that perpetuates pain. So we have to correct our own behaviors and habits. It's not just about lifting. Activation of certain muscles don't just happen. You have to train yourself to do it in a particular way that maximally stimulates the muscle and prevents injury to the joint. So this takes practice, it takes experience, it takes knowledge of how the muscles move your body and how the hard, bony parts of our anatomy are constructed. Because it's designed very efficiently to do whatever you do a lot. So if you sit on your ass a lot, your body will conform to this posture. And then when we try to stand up or do anything this way, we start to get stuck. And we talk about gravity pulling us down, but it's not gravity, it's us being fucking lazy. We're actually doing pretty good on time. Better than I thought. Get some more chalk. If you're not allowed to use chalk in the gym, it's not a real gym. So the good spacing for grip is putting your thumb right on the knurling and then extending straight out, and then wrap your thumb, and then I like to turn out so that the supporting weight of the bar is on my bones, not hyperextending my wrist and pulling my palm back. So we don't want injuries, obviously. We want supported joints. So squeeze, squeeze, squeeze the core. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Before we push up, it primes that joint. You don't want to have any kind of sudden onset. You're used to hearing that word. When we talk about injuries, it's a sudden onset of either a maximal or submaximal load. It doesn't matter if it's light or heavy. A sudden onset or stress of a load, any load, can cause serious damage. Overarching in the lumbar spine will cause pain in the back. Squeeze that tummy down. It may bring you down just a little bit, right? So when we're pressing, remember we're squeezing down and pushing with the chest. So like when we grab this bar, we're not just turning. We're trying to squeeze it down like we're bending a bar this way. We're turning and we're squeezing together. And then we're pulling back and pushing out. So this pushing and pulling, we're really working a lot of the triceps. It's the squeezing together that's really beefing up the chest, right? So squeeze down and in. Your hand's not gonna move, but you're applying that kind of tension to the bar. And we're squeezing down, so we're squeezing down with the lats, we're squeezing down with the external rotators, and we're squeezing down and in with the pecs. And then we're just rowing, right? Except we're not doing this, we're doing this. Okay? It's the same motion. I gotta keep an eye on my time, guys, because I have appointments coming up this afternoon. And we want to make sure we take care of our post-workout nutrition appropriately. So hit me up for links for supplements if you need to, or for nutritional consultations. If you get on with the app, then you get your programming and nutrition, macros and all that kind of stuff free in the app with the subscription. I think it's like $129 or something, $130 for a year, so it's well worth it. You know, that doesn't go to me, it's just, that's the app. And then all that information is free in there. I can see what you put in, what you're logging in for your workouts. I can see what you're logging in for your nutrition. I can send you educational stuff. There's lots of live video feeds in there. Get on the app. If you're not on there, it's one of the best investments. Keep track of your nutrition. Keep track of your workouts. Learn what you can. Keep pushing. Make sure my body's set first, then the grip. Pinky grips first. Loose index finger. Turn down, break the bar, squeeze the abs. Okay, so the breathing that I'm using here is Valsalva breathing. We take a big inhale prior to the rep, prior to the stress of lifting. We do really slow eccentric, not super slow, but slow enough to have control over the entire range of motion. At 0 point during that range, is there any free fall? And then intentionally making sure that we're squeezed and in the right position at the bottom, and then pushing it back to an end point. So in the bench press, once we're off the rack and we're in a comfortable position, we should look through the bar and see that point on the ceiling, which is where the bar should be, and fix your gaze there, and through your periphery you should be able to see your chest of where you're going to bring the bar to, and that point on the ceiling. And just fix your gaze there and don't look around. Your body wants to go where your head goes. Okay? So, for different people, I would tell them, look up, look down, because I want them to fix something in their technique or posture, which is not happening through other cues. Those cues are not going to be the same for everyone. Our interpretation of signals and the way our body moves are a little different. We all have different compensations. We all have different strengths and weaknesses. And, oh my God, dare I say it, muscle imbalances. Okay? Posture doesn't just exist because of your anatomy. It's guided by that. But your posture and your muscle imbalances are guided by habitual behavior. And that habitual behavior creates body positions in which your length tension relationship across the joint is altered. Okay? If you think that's bullshit, think about when you were a kid, how flexible you were, and think about now. Go try and do the splits now. Your addict is probably gonna never forgive you for that. Our bodies change over time. It may take, or it may have taken you 30 years, or 40 or 50 years to get this fucked up, or this healthy. But once you start to correct it, it will not take that long for it to have given you enough progress to make you feel better about doing it. I'm just adding weight. So, and no doubt, my shoulder hurts all the time. Not just when I'm moving weight, but all the time. But what we're looking for is a change in pain intensity, sharpness. Ultimately, is there a zone or a range where things feel actually good, right? Without any kind of pain in the joint. So for me, if I'm really like working on pulling this back, it actually creates some overuse tension and fatigue and inflammation back here. A very common spot for people right there, right? But if I learn to kind of just like let that relax and not be stressed in on correcting it all the time, then it gives it actually a chance, just like with our workouts, it has to have a chance to recover. It has to have a chance to rest and let the inflammation come down. And then build tissue back up stronger. If you're constantly using it and constantly bracing, then ultimately we're just keep breaking it down and breaking it down and breaking it down, but not allowing it to fix itself afterwards. So when we have damage to the muscle, it's exercise-induced muscle damage. This creates that process of starting to build muscle back, right? But if you don't allow that cycle to happen, it's just always in a state of inflammation. This is where we start to get things like arthritis and so on, because it's just always inflamed. We have to ask ourselves, why is it inflamed? What can I do to make it better? Not relying on medication, but is there a stretch? Is there an exercise? Is there a range of motion that we can actually let it relax and recover and then work it some more? And actually my shoulders are pretty tight from yesterday, actually. So I did some maintenance stuff yesterday, kind of warm up back to recovery work. I did some push-ups and some rows, very lightweight but high volume. I'm actually a little sore from that, but it is what it is. so I start to feel a little bit in the shoulder, so I made sure I was in the right position, and I made sure that I was turning and externally rotating, not just bringing the shoulder in, but also rotating from the shoulder. Shoulder, elbow, right? So we don't want to just do this because that's actually a hyperextension of the joint, right? I want to rotate in and bring the elbow straight back. So, and then if we get to a top end of heavy where it's hard to control without risking damage to the joint, it's very easy to get extra volume in there, either by doing extra sets at that heavier weight or by doing drop sets or down sets where you can take some weight off, do a max rep set. So go to or as close to failure as possible with every set thereafter, continuing to reduce the weight, keeping the failure rep range, somewhere between, here we're only doing 5, right? So once we get there, rather than going down. And if I feel a shoulder injury, then I'll back off the weight. If I'm feeling strong but I'm just fatigued from that, I'll actually just keep going up in weight and just do like 1 hard rep. That's usually enough to kick off some soreness. Otherwise, like I said, take some weight off and then do what you would call a burnout set. I don't want to think about a burnout set because a lot of people think that means move fast. Just do as many as you can. I want you to do as many as you can with control, right? So same good technique all the way through. Pull, push, right? Squeeze the bar down, rotating all that together so that we don't have that incredible stress to the shoulder. Okay, and so you can see even for me just moving my neck around, everything pops. That's okay. Unless it's a sharp stabbing pain, there's probably nothing to worry about. Your body pops and releases gases and all that kind of stuff all the time as part of the cellular waste or metabolic processes that go through your body. So don't stress on popping. If it doesn't feel good, then we can talk about it. But if it feels like it just doesn't bother you that much, then it's probably not an issue. And pull those shoulder blades together, arms back. Push up into your shoulders, and then we're ready to go. Shoulders down. Okay, so controlling the range with this one because of the previous injury takes a little bit more control. This one's stable, I don't really have to try that hard. But with this one I have to concentrate on rolling down, but I also have to concentrate on not hyperextending because it's easy to push the shoulder forward and then click into a bad position here. Okay, so Keep the shoulders down, chest up as much as possible. Rotate in, but ultimately you want the wrist and the elbow to be stacked no matter what degree of abduction we have. Okay? We don't want to go above the collarbone, but anywhere here between, you know, just into the armpit and then right at your side is totally fine. Okay, we're gonna make another little bit of a heavier jump. We're gonna see how this goes. Boom, 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 boom. By the way, this is all, well, I don't know about all of it. The bar, some of the stuff's probably not, but the rack and the bench and all the system here is a PRX Performance system fold-out rack. So when I'm not using the space, so we have a class, I can pull this stuff in and we can do more aerobic activities or plyometrics in the same space. We actually have space with this up, but depending on the class size, you may have to fold that in. Alright, so first form. This is the Screamin' Freedom natural flavor energy drink from First Form. It's 10 calories, so it's actually a great pre or intra-workout drink, just to kind of keep you going. A little bit of calories, and then smash in your post-workout afterwards, as quick as possible, your protein and your carbohydrate powder, just to kind of get that into your body. And then probably within an hour or two, you're going to want to have some more solid food, just to stimulate that. And then after that, you really kind of want to start cutting the carbs out, because the rest of your day is not going to be as intense as the bulk of your activity day, right, and into your workout. So depending on workout, right, if you're going in, you know, late at night, your strategy might be a little different, but most of the guys doing like early to late morning, maybe even into evening time, like that after workout carbohydrate meals, right? Maybe 1 or 2 right there, your post and another meal. Start curbing your carb intake, because most ingested carbohydrates take 4 hours to become bioavailable for use as energy. So, and if we don't use it, we store it, right? So 4 hours, you don't have a whole lot of energy before it's time for bed, right? That it's going to give you restless sleep, not a good solid sleep, bad recovery. Okay, so start curbing out the carbohydrates in the midday, so that you have just enough energy fed into you to complete your active waking activities, and then let your nocturnal cycles of sleeping and rejuvenation run on the fat stores that are in your body. Your organs run mostly on fat, your central nervous system and your activity runs primarily on carbohydrate, right? So intense activity, burn up those sugars so that they're not getting stored in or affecting your blood glucose. Burn them off. So, I don't think I have them in here. I took them to the office. My wrist wraps, I think, are at the office. So that could be another thing. So if you start to have joint compression, but the muscle is not yet stimulated enough, then we may want to do more volume at a more moderate weight to be able to get that pump and work in the body. Sometimes you do your prescribed workout and it's just not enough, you know? I think for more trained individuals, it's not going to be enough. I think for ladies, a lot of the times, if you're a little bit trained, it's not going to be enough because you recover faster than men. But don't overdo it. If you're recovered, train. If not, do some active recovery. Stretching, warm up. Be active. Okay, so we're gonna see how this goes. I think from here we're probably just gonna do heavy singles and keep progressing, and just see where we crash and burn here. Where is the form gonna totally just break? Not there. Okay, unracking it was a little hard, but the rep felt really good. And so that was 55 and a 25 on both sides. I just added another 5 to the outer rim. So again, once you feel a little work, then you want to challenge yourself. And it may be difficult to challenge yourself over 2 or 3 or 5 or 6 reps. So don't progress in weight very rapidly. But if you want to stop at a certain point even and just do single rep, rack it, stable, decompress the joint, get back on it, do another 1, right? 1. If it was deadlifts, we'd be doing the same thing. Deadlift, put it down, reset, deadlift, bouncing. Guess what? When you bounce a deadlift, you're catching that weight in a free fall in your low back. So it better be a submaximal load that your low back can stand. And you better be bracing your core. Otherwise you're gonna, guess what? I hurt myself while deadlifting. You hurt yourself while deadlifting either incorrectly, trying to go too fast, overloading your joints, right? So calm down. You probably did hurt yourself doing a deadlift. But a deadlift is not going to hurt you if done our way. And so there's nothing, I reassure you. I'm sitting here working out with no disc at all in the L4, L5. Vertebrae compression. Nerve roots are pretty much gone. It's a dark black hole of an abyss in that joint. But I still squat. I squat to 295 the other day. I'm 165. I'm actually less than that now because I'm cutting. So it's not that you cannot do it. We need more preparation and more self-control. But you can do it. Degenerative disc disease can go suck one. The bag of sun. Because I'm not going to just lay down and let myself get weak. We can't do that. We have to fight and and make it strong. Like I said, we pick out where we're weak and we target those areas. We don't do the stuff that we like doing, and we don't do the stuff that's easy. Okay, it's getting a little more difficult to just get it off the hooks. So you're getting like every rep, because I set it low, every rep that I get is actually kind of like a rep and a half, right? So it's like an end range, kind of prime that muscle in order to feel kind of what does that weight feel like, right? So I'm getting this kind of a press just to unrack it. And then we go into a full range under really tight conditions, right? Because that sudden onset is no joke. So take that little end range to just kind of load everything up, tighten everything down, prep yourself for the rep, come in and push out. And so the less rest you give yourself before sets will challenge your metabolism and your cardio. And the more rest you have between sets will better prime your muscles to do it again, right? So we use up some of that energy, your blood is pumping more fuel into the muscle, and then we do it again, and we deplete that muscle glycogen again, and then that gets restored, and we just keep doing it. Now, when you're doing cardio and you're exercising and it's not really strenuous to the muscles, once you're done moving and getting your heart rate up, because your heart is working, body's not really working too much. And like I said, if you're doing slopes or whatever, if there's something that's strenuous and it's making your muscles sore, not your joints, your muscles, right? So if you're doing hills, if you're mountain biking, or like whatever, like the rock climbing, all difficult stuff, right? It challenges your strength. If you're just doing cardio, when you stop burning. You don't stop dead, obviously. Like, you gotta keep working to give yourself energy and stay alive. But the majority of the work, it just tapers off and you're back to a baseline of calorie expenditure, right? But when you lift weights and you strain the muscle and you damage the muscle just a little bit from that work, then you're just like your cardio kind of tapers off, your immediate kind of energy expenditure tapers off, but it stays relatively high because now your body's working overtime to repair that damage that we did to the muscle, and to have a little bit of a rebound where it's making it just a little bit stronger. So all your gains should really be like little bit. Okay? So if you're looking for really, really fast gains, you better be a newbie and you better be used to working damn hard, which don't usually come together, right? You gotta have a beast of an attitude when you come into the gym in order to want to work hard at shape you're not good at. And unless you have that kind of an attitude, you're not going to have drastic changes. So, most of us will promote a lifestyle change in where you make small, manageable changes in your behaviors that affect your long-term health. That's the way to go. The fast way is usually the wrong way, not because it doesn't work, but because it's hard to maintain. People don't have that much discipline, especially when you're just getting started. Me, if I want to do a smash cut and just like trim out really fast, I'm used to that. We've been doing that since we were in high school, wrestling. Like, we know what it is to cut. We've been doing it since we were a kid. So doing that for an MMA fight, doing that for boxing, like just trimming out, that's all pretty much easy when, like I said in previous video, when you're trained athletically as a child to know your body, to have that feedback and control over yourself. Maybe you had a good coach, maybe you didn't have a good coach. But if you trained athletically or played in some competition sport, then you probably have a way better foundation than somebody who's just going to come in and not have any control over their spine or awareness of balance. It's just the coordination is very foundational, but it's very problematic in most individuals. I posted or reposted a video on my Instagram that shows a lifter roll his ankle and just collapse, and the weight falls on him and everything else. And one of the comments, I think the only comment on the post, says it's the shoes. And I literally, as a therapist, I really considered this thought, because I know a lot of us wear the little skinny shoes, and it's not really good for opening your toes and gripping the ground, and these are all foundational things that you have to do in order to have good ankle stability. And so, and therefore balance and knee support and hips and low back and all this structural support starts with our connection to the earth, to the ground. How do we root into the ground so that we can do these movements? But the guy had on wide-toed lifting shoes, double buckle strap. It was not the shoes. It was most definitely his inability to control his ankles and feet. And so the beginning foundations of all of our stuff is just, how do we do this, right? And so our programs are really customized to the individual. Not everybody has the same compensations. Not everybody has the same weaknesses and imbalances in their body. But once we get a solid control over these, and you may not conquer it to the point where, oh my God, I have scoliosis and then now my back is straight. But it's definitely going to be stronger and reinforced and a little more decompressed. Knee problems, all the joints are going to be more structurally stable, so that we can go do a class like CrossFit or a boot camp or a Zumba or whatever, right? But I see a lot of people going to these classes, and I cringe. I almost can't teach or watch a class, because people are just moving in all kinds of different directions. I saw a class yesterday, where everyone was doing the same movement, but it all looked really different. And it wasn't that they were doing the steps wrong, or that the coordination or choreography was off. It was all the different movement pattern compensations that people have. And you can see where they're tight, or where they're not engaging their core, or if we have no internal and external rotation, if you have drop foot, right? Like, all of these things that we just don't think about, we have to start by conditioning you to control all of these things in your body. When you have control over your body, then we can start making significant progress with weights and physical development built on top of those very strong foundations. Otherwise, we're going to be really paying the piper when it comes to just jacking ourselves up by trying to overdo it. And hopefully that's not what I'm going to do here. If I get into trouble, if I feel pain, I'm going to actually just bring it down. I'm not going to just drop it, obviously, but I'm going to bring it down with control. And then I'm going to roll it up towards my neck so that it can rest on the pins here. Okay? You don't want to put the pins way up where your chest is, where you have this stop rest on the pins before you push it up. While we hit our deep, deep, deep bottom, we still want to be in as much shoulder extension as possible without causing any injury there. Okay, so that's a good thing about a rack is that you don't have to just kind of pull it off. I've been able to do that before, but now that it's getting heavier, push into the rack, and then when you're fully extended, then you can kind of bring it down and out, and then set yourself up. So even now, as it gets harder, I was trying to do a skull crusher out of the hooks, but now you can't do that, right? So skull crusher is a tricep extension. Pullover is with the lat. So when you do that, you kind of prime those muscles to be able to do some of this load. And so just like I was saying, that kind of push up before we get set and then bring it in, that just primes the muscle so that it's not having this sudden onset of a full range of motion. So like I said, most of these reps, because of where I set the hooks, it's actually like a rep and a half per weight adjustment. So now obviously we got I don't know obviously, but if you check out the profile, we got an office in San Jose. I do all of my online stuff here in my home in Fremont. We do, through the app, you can get a lot of online nutrition and programming. If you want to do like a video form critique, I do those. I do live Zoom sessions as well. Most people feel like that's just not the same as like an in-person session, and you're right. If you're in the area, come in so that we can work together a few times. Even if you're an advanced athlete, you work together a few times, get some little corrective things down, and then back in the gym. Even when I'm working with some of my other rehab clients, if we're having restrictions or pains, the benefit of having the promotions that we have right now, everything's the same price. So if I need to stop in the middle of some work and manipulate the tissue and then put it back on the bar, then we can do that, and there's no difference in billing costs or anything like that. So it's actually pretty convenient, but yeah, we're still not accepting insurance, so not doing that. Not doing that.
insurance Gestapo is gonna come over here and try to pressure me down.
Okay, I'm too far down, so we gotta come up. Da, da, da. So you find that one out real quick. Okay. That was in that range of getting slow with the control. Alright, so now mind you, we're at the top end of a progression that's taken probably a couple of hours to get here. Right? So long warm up, a lot of volume and some moderately heavy weight. And then now, look, so that's I might actually do one more and just get it all the way down to failure. Yeah, okay, why not? So, in this, so this is a big 245, which is still a decent weight for a guy that's only 160, 165. I'm far from where I used to be when I think I was in my prime in my 20s, but that was 20 years ago. And so I would say, considering this guy is 47 years old, he's doing pretty fucking good. And considering I've been... Okay, let's see here. We've been shot at, stabbed twice, bit by a human being twice, bit by a rattlesnake, bit by lots of spiders and mosquitoes and regular stuff. Yes, I said no. Hit by lightning. Seizures, migraines, all that stuff that comes from getting hit by lightning. Torn meniscus, torn labrum, ulnar abutment, so I have 7 screws holding my arm together with a steel bar, or, I don't know, it's not steel, it's titanium or some alloy shit that they use now. Tore the Achilles tendon, all kinds of shit, man, I don't even know what to say. Degenerative disc disease in the lumbar spine, stenosis in the neck. So like if any of that sounds familiar, broken clavicle, or collarbone, torn rotator cuffs on both sides. Yeah, so there is absolutely no reason why you should just let yourself go into the slope of pain and wallowing in self-pity. We all have pain, we all have tribulations, we all have struggles. But in the gym, we learn how to struggle. We learn how to join together and tough it out, and how on the whatever, through your people or through your community on your online, you find support. So Working out for a lot of us is therapy. Just because you see somebody who's into fitness or into their body, don't assume they're narcissists. Okay? Or self-centered. A lot of the times, there's bigger, deeper issues at play. And we're in the gym working on improving ourselves the only way we know how. And that helps all the way around. Not just your health, but your mental health, your emotional health, your psychological health, your physical health, heart health, cardiovascular health. Work out. But if you want big changes, like I said, you gotta come in hungry for it. Push hard. Make yourself want to throw up. Make yourself want to pass out. Make yourself want to die. Intensity, no matter what the program is, what breeds results. If you don't bring intensity, it just ain't gonna happen no matter what the program is. You can have the best coach in the world, it is not gonna matter. So, right there in the struggle, I started to peel up. And so you gotta mind yourself, go slow, don't give up, and don't wiggle all over. Feel that start to come up and pull it down, and then just finish it out, okay? Finish it out. Alright, so let me check the time. Check the time. It is 1 o'clock already. So, I'm going to do a couple of drop sets. What we're going to do here is we're going to drop it all the way down to the 55s. And we're going to do burnout sets. Still with control. But I'm telling you, anywhere from 6 to 30 reps is the recommended range generally. Right? So, we're going to try for 30. Don't say, oh, I'm going to do 12 and stop. We're going to try for 30. Again, what, that was 245 right there. And we're dropping it down to 155. Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, we just dropped 90 pounds. So, just like that, 90-pound drop. So now we've got a little bit of a struggle, so we're learning how to push through that. That builds maximal strength. And then doing the volume again, that's going to push for hypertrophy, it's going to push for endurance, stamina basically, but ultimately a metabolic adaptation in the muscle tissue, in the vascularization in the tissue that not only helps with blood flow and recovery, but also volumization of the muscle. So the more the mitochondria grow, the more veins and arteries that need to be pushing blood in and taking blood out of the region. All of that needs space, right? And all of those structures are built out of protein. Okay? Protein is structural building blocks. It's not just about muscle. It's all of that. It's your red blood cells. It's your arterial walls. It's your bone density. It's your muscle. It's your hair. It's your skin. It's your nails. It's your hormones. Anything that you say, oh, I have a problem with this, guess what? You're probably not eating enough protein. Okay? Your carbohydrate must be fueling, like I said earlier, only your energy that you need for the day. You should not be having to still process carbohydrates after you're sleeping. So no carbohydrates more than like 6 hours or something before you go to bed. Because it takes 4 hours for it to digest and be ready for energy. And then guess what? You want to have a little bit of time to use it up. So don't have energy when you're going to bed. Have your energy still a couple hours before you go to bed. Use it up. Whatever you got to do at home. And then at the end of the day, you're crashing because you've done all the work that you need. And you're at the end of your energy supply. We don't want to have extras so that we store it as fat. And then while we're sleeping and recovering, that energy that we have from our fat storage is being used. So you're literally burning fat while you're sleeping. And if you do resistance training appropriately, then you're also building muscle during that time. Right? So we're taking the raw protein building blocks, we're taking that fat energy, we're building muscle. It's kind of a passive thing. Your body recovers while you're sleeping and resting. We do the work to prime it and get everything ready, but then we go to sleep, and then everything kind of happens while you're resting. Okay, so still not very high rep range. We only hit 7 reps. And it's still pretty difficult. We're still working. We rest a little bit. We're going to hit that one again. No change in the weight. Just try and match that 7. See where we get. We might only get 3, 4, 5. Maybe try it again. See how much we can get. Match that 7, match that 7. Yeah, so now I'm feeling some struggle. I'm feeling some pump. The other was just hard, so it kind of primes you now for a lighter weight to still like, oh, okay, this isn't that heavy, so I can get away with doing some extra reps, which is now where some of that pump's gonna come in from. It was already a little pump during the warm up, but then we stressed it, and then now we're pumping it again, just to get that circulation and blood and just fill it up. And get the stretch in, and then we'll basically call it a day. But that's gonna wreck my chest and my triceps and probably my shoulders, but not in a bad way. They're just gonna feel more bouldery. If you're feeling low on energy, and maybe just a little cotton mouth, like drink some water. Cause a lot of times that'll just pop that energy right back in there. You just need a little bit more fluidity in the delivery systems. can't get as heavy as I used to with this because of the shoulder injury, so I don't really need to use the mouth guard. But if you're a biter and a clincher and a jaw, man, use a mouth guard. Use a mouth guard. No. And there we go. Okay, and that's how I use the spotter arms. Just let it down. My shoulder, I wasn't gonna risk my shoulder trying to push it. It was giving out, so I let it lay there. But bring it down. Set it softly onto the bars. Even if you're failing out, control the down. If there's an abrupt injury to the joint or tendon, muscle function is going to be gone and it's just going to come down. Okay? So do your best to just control it. Set it down on the safety rail and get some medical attention. But that's going to be it for today. I got to get ready for my other appointments. But you guys have a good one. Stay strong. Control your body. Control your life.